here, because I actually generally do pin PowerPoint to the taskbar as well. So I'm going to go, and I'm using the corner again with the mouse, and I'm going to come down here to search. And I'm going to type in PowerPoint. So now I'm going to come, right-click, brings up the app bar with mouse. So I'm going to go down here, click Pin to Taskbar. It's actually that easy. Now I'm going to swipe in from the side on the touchpad, which lets me go back through the apps that are currently running. And you see it goes back to Word, but you can also see that PowerPoint is now pinned here on the taskbar. So there's one other thing that I think is actually quite compelling on the desktop, so I do want to show you. I think you'll like it as well. So we're used to, on Windows 7 desktop, having a start menu right down here in the lower left. And so now, if you hover there, you see a representation of the start screen, because we have a screen now so that you can do customization and arrange all of your icons. And look at this. If I right-click on that, it brings up this context menu for power users just like you and me. We know that lots of folks don't use the things that are on this context menu, but you and I use them, and we use them a lot. And so this is a feature in here just for us, and it's one that I actually like and use, and I think you will like as well. So, you know, I have actually really enjoyed this Ultrabook, nice and light to carry around. And I actually think Antoine needs one too. And I think I have an app that can take care of that. So I'm going to go back to the start screen, and I'm going to open up Newegg. Newegg is an online retailer. They've developed a Metro-style app so that you can purchase content from the Metro-style app on their site. So I see they have lots of hardware here. So I'm actually going to pull up the charms, and I'm going to search on Ultrabook, and you can see I practiced here. So there's Ultrabook. I'll just click on it. So it's going to bring up the Ultrabooks. And so it not only has brought up the Ultrabooks, but it's brought up all of the decals and things that you can use to personalize them. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to actually swipe down from the top on the touchpad, which pulls up the app bar, and I'm going to sort this. I'm going to sort it by best rating. So what you're actually seeing is how a developer can use the standard controls to actually make it work well for his or her application. So it's now sorted, and they use eggs because it's Newegg. I think that's very cute. It amuses me, so I like the eggs. I definitely want to recommend one of the 5-egg ones to Antoine. And so I've actually heard a lot about the HP Envy, and I see it's here. So I'm going to click and go into the details, and yes, sure enough, that actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to share this information with Antoine. So I'm going to go back to the charms now, and I'm going to do share. Now you'll notice that I have several apps in here that are indicating that I can share to them. So in the old days, in my Newegg piece of software, I would have had to have an icon for everything I was going to share with. I would have had to have one for mail, I would have had one for Facebook, one for Twitter, one for whatever. And then as the developer, I would have had to do special code to make that work. So share is one of the new Win8 contracts. Very, very straightforward for a developer to do the code to share to or to receive the share content. And so what you're seeing here is Newegg is sharing to, and I have several apps here that can receive the content. And the more apps you add to the system, the better this gets. And it's one of the things that we actually think is just quite easy and convenient to use part of the platform. So I'm going to actually send myself a note about this HP Envy. So that's all I really had to do. There's the blurb that Newegg is sharing. So I will do that. And then I actually now want to tell Antoine, because I just am sure he will like this. So I'm going to share with mail. And I'm going to type in Antoine. And I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to actually send it to him so that he can actually get one as well. And so I've now showed you one of the many form factors we'll actually be showing today, on which Windows 8 and the interaction model is really nice and convenient. And I've showed you, Antoine showed you an app, and I've now showed you a different kind of app. So I'm going to ask Antoine to come back on stage, and he's going to show you some more apps, and I'll be back in a moment.
All right, thanks, Linda. So that's a great example of how you use Windows 8 with mouse and keyboard. And also a great example, that Newegg app is a great example of an app, different kind of app than the first one I showed you. This is an app that a business would build for its customers instead of an app that a business would build for its employees. So in the intro, I talked a little bit about how Windows 8, first and foremost, is Windows. And so that means a lot of things, but one of the things it means in particular is that it is a real multitasking operating system. You can have multiple apps running at the same time, doing things at the same time. And one of the great things about multitasking is sometimes you might actually want to have multiple apps up on the screen at the same time, so you can do two things. You can sort of monitor two things at the same time or something like that. Let's look at an example. I'm going to start a website here. So this is IE10. This is the Windows 8 version of IE10. So again, Chromeless. It's fast, it's fluid, it's beautiful. This is actually the consumer preview download page for Windows 8. So it's got this nice video. I'll just play the video while we're doing this. Maybe while I'm watching this video, I might want to be monitoring my email or something like that. So let me show you how you would do that. I'm going to go to the switch list here. Actually, here's the email app. You see how I now have it pinned over on the left side of my, here, actually, let's get out of the search results so I get the whole list. Now I have it pinned on the left side. I'm watching my movie. I can monitor my email at the same time. Maybe I want to move it over to the right side, and I could just drag down and move it like that. If I see something I'm interested in, maybe I can actually move that swipe bar over. I can look at my email message, read it, and then go right back to where I was before. And keep doing two things at the same time that way. I can get rid of it just by swiping down and taking it out of the way. So there's an example of just using multiple apps at the same time on Windows 8. Let's look at another example of an app here. So let me explain what this one is. This app here. So this is actually a prototype that SAP has actually been working on. So this is, let me explain what this app does. It's a sales pipeline simulation app. So this is a front end that works on top of SAP's sales automation back end. And the scenario for this is, imagine someone who's a salesperson. If you're a salesperson, you have a quota. You need to sell X amount of widgets or dollars worth of widgets by the end of the quarter or something like that. So this is an app that lets you project based on the opportunities that are in that sales automation system, whether or not you're going to make quota. And if you don't make quota, what do you need? Or if it looks like you won't make quota, what do you need to do in order to actually make it? So each one, let me explain what this is. Each one of these bubbles in the app represents an opportunity. The size of the bubble represents the size of the opportunity, right? The horizontal axis is time, so it shows me when I'm expecting to close a sale. The vertical axis shows me just my confidence. Now, if you look at the top, there's a green bar that says 89% on it. This tells me that basically, based on the opportunities that are in the system right now, I am on track to make 89% of my quota by the end of the quarter. The quarter ends where the blue bar at the bottom is. So I look at this and I go, well, that's not so great. I'd love to make 100% or more, because then I'll get, obviously, a better paycheck at the end of all of it. So what the tool lets me do is actually just manipulate these things directly and simulate changing things and see what the impact of it is. If I touch one of the bubbles, I see this little panel that flies out that gives me a bunch of information about the opportunity. I can do things like just move the bubble over, right? And that would represent actually moving the sale closer in, so bringing in that sale. And what's the impact of doing that? What's the impact of actually raising my confidence level about that sale and actually thinking that I can really actually complete it? Maybe I can pull another one in and there. Just by simulating those things, I can actually, what if I make this one bigger? I can just swipe around and you can see this is just a great example of what you can do with rich visualization, direct manipulation. They're all things that actually the app model for Windows 8 is really built for doing. So it's just another beautiful app. This is a different kind of app. This is an app that actually SAP, a big ISV, will build themselves and try to sell to their customers. So it's different than a custom line of business app. And maybe SAP would actually, there's interesting question about how SAP would distribute an app like that, or how Newegg, the app that Linda was showing you, how does that get distributed to customers? Well, the way that happens is through the Windows Store. So let's have a look at the Windows Store. The Windows Store is the place where you go get your Windows 8 apps. Okay, I'll tell you. Let me give you a little bit of a tour of the store here. It's organized into sections. The section that you see right now in front of me is something we call Spotlight. So that's a program section where we have a chance to show you new and noteworthy apps and great new things and fun new things that show up. There's also some algorithmic lists or some programmed lists here that show you things like top free apps and bestsellers and things like that. And then if I pan over to the right, you can see that the content is actually organized into different categories. So I've got games here, I've got social apps. We can drill into one of these. Let's go drill into the entertainment section. And what I'll get is a list of apps. So by the way, what we're looking at here is the store that's live right now for the Windows 8 release preview build. So those are all real apps that ISVs and developers have been writing for Windows 8 already and that you can actually go play with. Each one of these tiles here represents an app that I can get. I can just go tap on one, and then I get this rich description page for the app that lets me see all sorts of things about it. So for example, here's some screenshots that I can swipe through. I can see a description of what the app does, details about hardware requirements and things like that. I can look at ratings and reviews. And of course, if I want to install the app, I can just go tap on install here, and the app will actually get downloaded and installed. Actually, that happened really quickly. The app will just get downloaded and installed for me on my system. And then if I go back, you can see it got added over here at the end of my start screen. And just like that, super easy to get things from the Windows Store. So I'm going to bring Linda back on screen now, and on stage, sorry. And Linda's actually going to talk to us about some enterprise features now that we've added to Windows 8. Thanks.
Thanks, Antoine. I have a machine here that keeps going, and there it goes again to sleep. And so I'm going to get it started here. So I am actually demoing now on I'm going to sign in here first. Traditional desktop laptop. This is a Lenovo laptop. Again, mouse, keyboard, but this one is special because it has a touch screen. This is my form factor of choice. When I choose my work laptop, I always like a laptop with a touch screen. There's going to be really quite a number of those to choose from for Windows 8. And in fact, in Computex last week, many of our partners were showing their new form factors, both Ultrabooks and laptops that actually had a touch screen. I find this exceedingly convenient. And so you'll see me going back and forth between the input mechanisms here. So as I start out, this probably looks pretty familiar to you. You're looking at Windows 7 here. However, you're looking at Windows 7 running in a hypervisor client on Windows 8. So one of the new features in Windows 8 that I think many of you will be quite happy with is the fact that the hypervisor client is now a feature in the Windows 8 client. And you connect, I agree. And it makes, as you know, Microsoft actually provides images of past OSs, so it makes it actually very easy to check out things on the same set of hardware, or even to check out things at the same time. Because remember, this is just running on Windows 8. So one of the things that we know IT professionals and developers do is they check out and see how things work in different versions of the browser. So what I'm running here is IE9 on Windows 7, running in the hypervisor on Windows 8. I have a cut the rope site. It's a site that we actually use to verify standards compliance